repeating itself. But it does this not in the same way. It does this in different ways. History has a way of coming up from a different perspective. You will think it's another thing, bro. But it's the same thing. The first time the world raced to Africa, it came with ships. It came with soldiers. It came with flags. The first time it came with maps. It came with treaties. And I need to repeat again, it came with soldiers. It came with armies. And during that first time that it did come, the world came to Africa, territories were divided. Lines were drawn. Borders were mapped out. A continent paid the price, and that is Africa. A continent was ripped off. Today, the world is coming to Africa. They are coming back. Should I use the word they are returning? Well, if I use the word they are returning, that means I'm making it sound like it's theirs to be returned. They have a portion to return to. Now the world is coming back, but this time it's not coming with ships. This time it's coming from a different angle. This time the flags are different. It's not UK coming to wave flag. It's not Spain coming to wave flag. It's not France or France coming to wave flag. The flag is different. The language is different. And I tell you something, instead of soldiers, because that was how they came the first time, we see investors. There is something that I think that Africa needs to wake up to. Africa definitely needs to wake up to it. We see investors. We're seeing investors. We're seeing technology companies springing up in Africa. Africa needs to wake up. We are seeing mining corporations. Now there is diplomatic visits in Africa. There are trade agreements in Africa. There are deals on infrastructure. Every day there is a deal being struck about infrastructure. The methods seem to have changed. But there is something I need to remind Africa. The method might have changed, but the competition is the same, exactly the same. The scramble for Africa is on. Does Africa recognize it? I'm Chioma Lina. And I would make to attempt to explain some things that is very salient, that is very important. Because the truth of the matter is, if you don't wake up, if Africa does not wake up, Africa would wake up one day and discover its own totally, completely owned by another person, another continent. Africa might wake up one day and discover that it's no longer located in Africa. Will that shock you? Because something interesting is happening. Every major power in the world seems to be paying attention to Africa. Not just anyhow attention. They are paying closer attention to Africa. Every major power in the world is paying closer attention to Africa. You see the United States. You see China. You see European Union. You see India. Turkey. You talk about the Gulf states. They all have summits. And we will be playing ignorant. Africa will be playing ignorant if they act as if they're not in the mix. They're not in the picture. They hold summits. There is investment forums. There are trade missions. ongoing in the name of Africa, but Africa is so largely unaware. Or is it that we are aware, but we are playing nonchalant? Strategic partnerships are going on. At first glance, one might say, oh, what could this be? What can it mean? Could it be that, Africa has something? At first glance, it might seem flattering. But we need to come close. We need to pay close attention. We need to draw attention because there is something the mother Africa is screaming, and if we are not attentive to it, then it will bypass us. It feels as if the world has suddenly discovered Africa, but that's not true. Africa is embedded and enriched with so many things, The world hasn't suddenly discovered Africa. It hasn't. And let me put this. Is it possible that the world has discovered that they can't build tomorrow without Africa? Is it possible that the world has discovered that there is no future outside of Africa? Take a moment to think about the technologies shaping the world. Just for a moment, think about the technologies shaping the world. Talk about electric vehicles. You talk about artificial intelligence. You talk about renewable energies. No continent of the world don't they have a smartphone. And in some countries more than all the rest, solar panels are at an all-time high in demand. There are now advanced defense systems. And you ask yourself this, and I need you to ask yourself this: what do they all have in common? What do they all have in common? Artificial intelligence, what's it called? Smartphones, defense systems, electric vehicles. What do they all have in common? What do they all have in common? They depend on minerals. Let me help you. They depend on minerals. Talk about lithium. Talk about cobalt. Talk about manganese. Talk about minerals like nickel. Rare earth elements are found in Africa. Many of these elements, many of these minerals are hugely found in large amounts in Africa. God bless you for that. Africa's ground is what's ruling the world. They're not just scantily, these minerals are not just scantily found in Africa, they are found in abundance. Suddenly, the continent that was once described only in terms of poverty has now a different narrative. It's now being described in terms of strategic importance. Do you really actually think, if you're an African, ask yourself, do you really think that it's because of you have something, there's empathy going on, that's why the attention is on you? That they want you to be equal with them? You're so very mistaken. That the world is paying close attention, there is a strategic importance being attached to Africa. That should tell you something. That should speak in plain and loud tongues and languages. The world rarely changes its interest by accident. It doesn't. It doesn't change its interest by accident. Something always happens. It changes because priorities have changed. When are we going to wake up? You will hear of countries that supply electricity to other countries are lacking. I don't want to say that they have power outage. They are lacking in electricity supply. Yet they are the ones feeding other nations. Countries that supply electricity to another nation, a nation that is supplying electricity to another nation is lacking in the very thing that it possesses, that is supplying to others. When are we going to wake up? When will Africa wake up and arise to what is happening? When are the leaders going to truly become leaders and not scrambling for peanuts? Because whatever it is your offer, they are peanuts. When are we going to arise and make the difference? Priority has changed. There is a question that I find very interesting. And that is, when the world comes looking for Africa, what exactly do you think is looking for? When the world comes looking for Africa, what exactly do you think is looking for? What do you think the world is looking for? Do you think it's looking for African prosperity? African wealth? Or do you think it's looking for African resources? We need to answer these questions to be able to arrest this scramble and change the narrative. Prosperity and resources are not always the same thing. They don't always amount to the same thing. Because if anything, history has taught us that resources can make a nation wealthy, cannot simply make a nation wealthy. Resources can make a nation wealthy, or it can make it valuable for someone else. So resources can make a continent wealthy or simply make it valuable for someone else. The difference lies in negotiation. How is Africa negotiating? The difference lies in strategy. What strategies are we putting in place? Are we just playing dumb? The difference lies in leadership. When are we going to stop entertaining the world and take up the center stage? When are the leaders really going to emerge? Because come to think of it, imagine you owning the land where the world most important minerals are found. Imagine owning it for having no influence over what those resources create. Think about it for a moment. The industries that those minerals create, you don't have a hang on it. Imagine exporting the materials that power electric vehicles. That's what we do. We export the materials that power them, only to import the electric vehicles themselves. Imagine supplying the ingredients for tomorrow's economy. Africa, arise. Arise. You supply the ingredients for tomorrow's economy without owning tomorrow's economy. Where do you stand? I think the very next episode, we're just going to hit countries by countries and really hit it at where it matters most. You're supplying the ingredients for the economy, but you don't control the economy. And that is very dangerous. That is very dangerous because it's so sad. It's so sad. But I beg to tell you that that is not the destiny of Africa. That is not the destiny of Africa. Because Africa has something that the previous generation does not have. Africa now has knowledge. It has always had knowledge, but it's never been able to transform it. But now, thank God for men that are springing up, men like Dr. Patrice Lumumba. It has knowledge. Africa has experience. Africa has history. When are we actually going to arise? We have seen what happens when resources left the continent without transformation. A lot of things go wrong. A lot of things go wrong. We have seen how wealth disappear. Wealth disappear at the point of export. We claim we're exporting, we're feeding the world and having nothing. We have seen how dependency is created. The question I'm asking you, asking every Pan-African, is have we learned enough to negotiate differently? Have we learned something that on the negotiation table, we do it differently? Because I tell you something, this might be Africa's greatest opportunity. This might be Africa's greatest opportunity, not because the world suddenly became generous. No. Not because nations don't know where to invest, put their wealth, but because for the first time in a long time, the world needs something that only Africa has in the way it has it. The world has not suddenly lost interest in themselves. No, it's because Africa has something in large quantity that only Africa has. And I tell you something, if not anything, this alone, this particular information changes the conversation. And I just pray that Africa will come to understand the leverage we have, that we will come to negotiate differently, will arrive at that table from an ownership perspective. I thank God there are people whose mind is already stirred. Power is not simply about possessing something valuable. That's not power. That you have it does not translate to power. Power is understanding the value of what you possess. When you understand the value of what you possess, you know. And perhaps that has always been the greatest challenge. You can imagine gifting a child a house, a baby a house, it does not know the difference. You can take it to a neighbor's house for all they care. Just carry me, because it does not understand. But when when a person understands the value of what they have, the conversation is different. The attitude is different. You don't come beggarly to the table. You don't come waiting to be invited. The race for Africa has never truly ended. You will be mistaken to think that it simply changed direction. Yesterday, the competition was about land. It was about grabbing people and all that. But today, the competition is different. It's about minerals. Minerals, and Africa is busy being harvested. Africa is busy being harvested. Our talent, mineral resources, innovation, ideas, Africa has it. There is an image that comes to my mind as I make to say this. There is an image that comes to my mind, and it's very pathetic. Africa is like that woman who is being brought to a harem or brought to a place only to bear kids that are not your own, only to harvest what is being what you are given. The principle will remain, because the question is no longer whether Africa is important. If you're still asking that question, then my friend, you need to catch up. You're way behind. Africa is over important. The world has already answered that. If you haven't, Africa is overly important. The real question is whether Africa understands its own importance. When are we going to stop being that woman that is kept somewhere only to be harvested, only to be only for them to keep taking our babies? They're just taking your babies and you're handicapped. History has a way of rewarding those who recognize their values. If you don't recognize your value, the world will keep turning round. The world will keep rotating around you. The world will keep taking from you. Until you recognize your value, every other person will treat you like a tramp, like a trash. You need to recognize your value before everyone else. Africa needs to recognize its value before everyone else. And maybe that's the opportunity before us. Not to become the world's warehouse, the world's baby-making machine, but actually to properly enter into this marriage from a different perspective. To enter into this marriage from a different angle. To become one of the world's architects. To become the architect that makes everything happen. Not to watch the future being built elsewhere. The future of Africa can largely be built by Africa, in Africa, and for Africa. Then we give to the world. We give to the world. We're not just supposed to sit there. We can be the creators, the designers, because everything that is used to be made, that is being used to make the future is here. We Africans can be the designers. Africa can be the designers. And I'm speaking to every Pan-African person, whether you're white, you're black. Africa needs to begin to see differently because the future is knocking on Africa's door. And I'm not sure if it knocks on other continents the way it's knocking on the door of Africa. The question is, as the future is knocking on the door of Africa, will Africa answer? Are we going to answer as suppliers or as partners? Will Africa answer as suppliers or will they answer as partners? Our answer to that question will determine how we evolve from here. I am Chioma Lina, and this has been the Bold Angle. I will see you next time, but always never forget, keep questioning to understand every frame. Don't just engage in silly arguments. Oh no, don't just engage in silly arguments, because no question is silly. No question is silly. I'll see you next time, and don't forget, you're always welcome. In case you're just passing through, don't just pass through. Do well to subscribe to this channel, like, share. Let the algorithm register this. Let it be noised. Let it be heard. The narrative about Africa, the question about Africa, the negotiation on the table of Africa need to be done by Africans, need to be done from the perspective of the person who understands Africa, who values Africa, no longer sits on the wayside, no longer sit on the touch lines, no longer sit outside the stadium, no longer wave from a distance. You cannot afford to be an observer in your own game. You cannot afford to be an observer in your own play. You cannot afford anymore to just sit on the fence. It's time for Africa to arise. And I say arise, indeed, arise now. Until next time, like I said, I haven't changed. I'm Chioma Lina, and this has been the Border. You're welcome.